I'm Madelyn Blair, and this is Unlocked. On today's show, my guest Linda Potts will talk about preparing for serious change at any time you choose. After our conversation, I'll be talking about what it means to take action from a very different, maybe surprising point of view. So stay tuned. I'm Madelyn Blair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about activating the resilient leader in you. Most of us think that a new year begins in January. I have always considered September the beginning of a new year. It comes from returning to school in September. To me, it was a glorious moment when I could once again get in the classroom and just learn. No chores, no practicing the piano, no go straighten up your room. I was just able to sit and learn. It always felt like a fresh start with a new teacher, new subjects, new friends, maybe some new clothes. Even today, with my school days well behind me, I look at September as a time when I can change things in my life. Now, besides, who says you need to wait for any date to tell you you can change something in your life? Well, today, I've invited a remarkable woman who helps anyone who wants to make a change for the better. Linda Potts is a registered nurse and holds 2 doctorate degrees. She's a healthcare professional who began her career in ER trauma. After having gone through years of working to heal herself from the results of Lyme disease, she's since recovered, blending Western and Eastern medicine to help her clients achieve balance in all aspects of their life. Please note, all aspects of your life. Let me bring Linda on. Linda, welcome to Unlocked.
Thank you so much, Madelyn. I appreciate you having me on your podcast.
Oh, you're always a pleasure. And you always give people wonderful content.
Thank you.
All right. Now, let's get into things because I am curious. You told me that you started, or part of your career preparation was in the ER trauma. What makes that so important that people understand that you were in ER trauma as part of your prep?
Well, pretty much like any profession, just because you have a title doesn't necessarily mean you're well versed in a lot of things. And so you can be an RN and you can be, have a lot of knowledge, but in the emergency room and being a trauma nurse, you get a lot of experience in the whole aspect of a human being. And I like fast-paced things. And I was really fortunate because I had absolutely fabulous nurses and doctors to learn from in the emergency room. The other thing about the emergency room is you get a lot of autonomy. And so you're kind of put at a higher expectation of how you're going to function as a nurse. And it just taught me a lot about human beings and how things get triggered in the body. Can be long-term, but people come in emergency and you got to work fast. And I wanted people to understand that I have a lot of background in Western medicine. It's not just like, and please, I'm not belittling anyone who does this, but an RN that just takes care of somebody who sleeps all night long. There's still things to do, but it's very different than when you're actively trying to save somebody's life.
Oh, Linda, thank you so much for that explanation. It really does make a difference. Just knowing that you have to take initiative in that kind of situation really puts you in a different place. Well, when I told you that I like to talk about starting a new year, your response was, then we have to talk about the basics, Madelyn. So tell us about what it means by the basics, and then we might go through them perhaps one at a time, however.
Okay. I think the basics really to have good all-around health is to focus on food, water, sleep, and exercise. We all hear those words all the time, but we don't necessarily understand it to the degree where we know how to put it into action. And so I like to simplify everything. Okay. So, and, getting back to basics is just starting from the very beginning, and particularly in one of those areas that you haven't really focused on. You can just pick one area. You don't have to do all of it all at one time. And that's the thing that so many people try to fix everything all at once, and then they get discouraged because things aren't happening as fast, and you're not seeing results as quickly, and all. And that's the other thing is, because we live in such a fast-paced world, we think everything should happen instantaneously, and it just doesn't happen that way. And I tell my patients too when they come here, I am not an emergency room. We work things. Sometimes it feels like it takes forever, because when you work natural stuff, it's very different than Western medicine. Western medicine, you pop a pill and there you go, your pain is gone. The problem is we don't look at what's causing the pain to begin with, and why is it lasting so long? Why do I have to keep taking this medication? Why do I have to keep taking these pills to keep my pain level down? Why am I not healing as quickly as I should? So we take it a little bit slower, and understanding that it takes a bit longer, because we have to change the way that we think about things, and the way that we try to implement things. One of the biggest things is the weight loss thing. Everybody wants to lose weight right away, right away. Well, it didn't take you an instant to gain those 20, 30 pounds that you want to get rid of. It takes time and change of how you think about things, how you feel about things, what's really important to you, what kind of exercise, like I said, and what are your sleep patterns like. All of those are really important for us to make positive changes in our health.
I, I really like your explanation, because you refer to yourself as dealing with the whole person. And I can see right already that you're talking about it and thinking about it from that perspective. Uh, I wonder though if we can with that background begin with one of the basic areas that you talked about. Maybe we could begin with food. I mean, everybody has to eat. You talk about factors that a person should consider to assure that the body they eat that is truly building a better body. Correction, the food that they eat.
Yeah, that is really important. If you don't mind, I'd like to step back just a little bit and explain
Sure.
a little bit about what I mean about the whole person. We
Okay.
have the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual parts of us. And if any one of those are out of balance, it can kick any of the other ones out of balance. So like we can eat healthy food, but if the way that we think about the food, and the way that we feel about things that are happening in our life, the food may not make the impact that we're expecting it to happen. So we've got to look at all components of that. And in Western medicine, we typically just focus on the physiological. But and I can give you an example just for myself. You talked about how it took me a long time to get over Lyme, that I also had parasites. So I was really healthy person. I exercised, ate really healthy all of my life, and then all of a sudden I went down at 42 years of age. I went down to the floor and I couldn't get up because I was in so much pain. Through Western medicine, working ER. I knew the docs and everything, and I was very fortunate to have the expertise that I needed. But they all said, I don't know how to fix you. We've done everything. We've done all the tests and everything. We don't know how to fix you. We just don't know what's going on. And so I turned to natural medicine. And also with the question, it's like, why? Why did this happen? Why did I just collapse and wasn't able to function when I felt like I was healthy all the time? And what it turned out to be, one of the things that was found besides the Lyme was parasites. Of course, Babesia is also a type of parasites, but I had parasites from Philippines. And when that was identified, my practitioner said, does that make sense to you? I said, yeah, when I was a kid, I lived in Thailand. We visited Philippines. But I didn't understand because they said it was flukes. Well, in the Western medicine arena, I thought flukes only came from meat. I was vegetarian. So how did that make sense? I found out they were vegetarian flukes. So then it was like, okay, so I had them for 29 years in my body. How is it that it could all of a sudden manifest? Well, I was going through a 3.5 year separation and divorce, extremely challenging for me. And my thoughts were, I want to keep this marriage together. I don't want my kids coming from a divorced home. The emotions were, I was just on a roller coaster sometimes. And when I started into natural medicine and connecting what's going on emotionally and mentally with me, when I looked up parasites, the emotional piece is giving power to others or letting them take over. And that's exactly what I did during this separation and divorce because I wanted to keep it together. Okay, I'll do whatever it takes. I will give up. I became a non-person, basically. I let myself go. And that's when the parasites started manifesting and developing and all that. So that really stuck really strong in me. And most of the time when people come to me, they've gone through all the Western medicine stuff. So physiologically, they've been dealing with stuff, but their physiological is not getting better because most of the time there's a mental and emotional element that's out of balance there. One of the biggest things is stress. And did you know, Madelyn, that stress can increase your A1C? How many?
Well, I believe you, but what is the A1C?
A1C is part of the blood work that they check to see if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic.
Ah,
And so they give you medication for that. And it's like, okay, but is it really out of balance because of a physiological element, or is it out of balance because of the way that we're thinking and the stress that we're carrying in our life? I found that really interesting.
that says to me that there are people who are taking diabetes medicine that maybe shouldn't be.
That and
Well,
I
I know.
have found that to be true in my thing. Okay, so now we'll go back to the food. Sorry, I
Okay.
felt that
Oh,
was really important to share
yes.
that
That is,
information.
and it's remarkable. What I really took from that was that aspect of when you let down your defenses because you wanted so much to keep that marriage going, that the somehow the biome inside you said, "Oh, this is what she wants me to do.
Yeah,
I've got an opening. Let
yeah.
me take advantage." Wow.
And how I tell people it was like party time, and they just took over my body. It was absolutely amazing. They
Mm,
were all throughout my whole blood system.
wow.
Yeah, it was again very impactful. But
Okay.
even with that, I had to go back to the basics. Okay, so what's going on? So food. I even looked at my food, thinking that I was eating really healthy, and I was for the most part because I was a bodybuilder and all. But even as a bodybuilder, I remember I wanted to make sure that I wasn't taking a whole lot of sugar in my body, and I started reading the ingredients on all the different packaged goods that I purchased. There wasn't a whole lot of packaged goods, but even that, like I can't remember the drink. Uh, grape juice was one of the things that was healthy in our family. We could drink grape juice. Well, I happened to look at the ingredients, and the amount of sugar was like 27 grams of sugar for like 4 ounces of Welch's
Yep.
grape juice. And then I looked at a Coke, and it had less sugar in it than uh, grape juice. Who would have thought? Except for if you think about it, and this is one of the things that people get into is when there's a big thing about juicing now, and people like the taste of fruit, so they do more fruits than they do vegetables. And then the problem is are you going to eat? And this is one of the things I say to my patients. Okay, if you're going to be eating fruit and you're going to make a smoothie, are you going to eat a whole peach, a whole banana, a whole apple, watermelon, and whatever? Are you going to eat all of those things that you put into your juice and then you drink that? It's a ton of sugar that is all that you put all in that one drink. So we got to look at that. But
Mm.
just to simplify things, again, just going back to the basics, I recommend staying on the perimeter of any grocery store, right? Because that's typically where the healthier things are. And
It's
if
called
you
what I
do,
call the real food.
yes, exactly, real food. And then if you're going to buy any kind of packaged goods, make sure you read the actual ingredients. If there are words on there that that you don't understand and cannot pronounce, probably it's a chemical and it's not good for your body. So that's a biggie because people think it's like, oh well, it says natural. and it's health, and it says, I don't know, nuts and honey and all of that, but what else is in there that could be causing your body not to respond in a healthful way for you because of the additional ingredients in there. So the fewer ingredients, the better, for sure. And one of the things I talked to you about is the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. I know a lot of people have heard about them, but a lot of people haven't. And I think that that's a really good place to start. Now, the Environmental Working Group takes the USDA data sources every year, and they go and they look at the top vegetables and fruit that have the most pesticides and that have the least pesticides. So, and then they categorize them. Now, one of the things I read you the list the other day. I won't do that because anybody can go on Google and look it up. But and you had said, number one is strawberries, which it is. However, they do not put these in a specific order of like which fruit and vegetable is worse than another. They're all pretty bad when they make that list of the Dirty Dozen. And then the Clean 15, they may have some pesticides in them, but they're a whole lot less than others. So yes, you want to try to stay organic. Now, one of the challenges is when you say organic, people are like, I can't afford them. I can't afford it. Okay, that doesn't give you the right to exchange any kind of fruit and vegetable for gummies. Let's say, watermelon gummies. We'll do that instead of eating that. So you want to be cautious about that. You still want to fill your plate with fruits and vegetables. Very important, even if you can't get them organic. You can try to go as natural as you can. If you know farmers in the area that grow their own stuff, you can buy them, and more than likely they may use a little bit of pesticides, but a lot of them don't use as much as they do for the foods that you buy in the grocery store. So that's what I would say about that. And then including in food, I want to add water. Water is so important. Most people have no idea that our brain is up to 85% water. People wonder why they can't think well. Were you aware of that,
Well, I
Madeline?
knew it was a high percentage, but I didn't think it was that high.
Yeah, and the rest of our body is about 70% water. We don't manufacture water, so we have to drink it. We have to put it in our body. Now, one of the biggest complaints I get from my patient is like, oh, that just means I'm just going to be peeing all the time. No, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. So, like, let's say most of my patients will say, well, I'm drinking like 2 glasses of water. The rule of thumb is about half your weight in ounces a day. Good for you for drinking your water, Madeline. um, that and then they're like, well, shoot, then I have to drink so many ounces and all I do is pee. Well, if you just add like a half a cup every few days, then your body can get acclimated to the additional water that you do. And then if you still have that problem, the other thing you can do is add a pinch of Celtic salt either to your water, or you can put a pinch in your mouth and let it absorb into your mucous membranes, because then it will go in and allow the water to get into the rest of your mucous membranes.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing. I never thought of putting a touch of salt in the water, and that actually could be helpful
Yeah.
to. And I'm suddenly seeing a whole new image in my mind. Uh, I've always thought of drinking water as okay, drink water, and I do. I don't think I drink as much as I should, but I drink a fair amount during the day. Uh, but the aspect of letting your body get acclimated to it. So another, it's sort of like it's oh, we're going to get this regularly, then I can stock up because there are now reservoirs that I can fill all the time. I'm not saying it very clearly, but that's the impression I get.
Yeah. Well, and it's the same thing with food. It's like knocking out everything that you're used to eating all the time. You're going to start craving this stuff, and then you're going to go back to eating bad stuff. Typically, that's the typical behavior that I see. Um, Now, for me, working out, when I was doing the bodybuilding thing, I did, because I had been eating pretty clear and clean most of my life. It wasn't really hard for me to make any, big adjustments. They weren't really big adjustments for me at that time. And then when I got to my body weight and the exercise level that I wanted to be doing and the weight training level that I wanted, I allowed 1 day a week that I could eat whatever I wanted. So 6 days a week or whatever. But the interesting thing to me is I didn't crave any of the bad things. So it was really rare. Like if I wanted pizza, I would have one slice. I wouldn't have half a pizza anymore,
Yeah.
So again, our bodies will get acclimated if we allow that time to allow it to get adjusted to our new way of doing things. And that's why I say get back to the basics and start slow. You can make one or two changes and get your body acclimated and get into the habit of doing that, and then it won't feel like such a struggle and such a chore. This actually is supposed to be good for you, and you should be excited about this, not like, oh, I got to start this day doing this and eating this, and I'm so sick of carrots and lettuce. It's like it shouldn't be that way. Our body will get adjusted to eating healthier foods. Does that
Well,
make sense?
it definitely does, because as you know, I have a lot of things that I do to keep my body healthy. It's
Mm-hmm.
that I decided that was something I was always going to do. But one of the things that I'm thinking of is as growing up, I grew up in a household where we ate lots of green vegetables, and I know children, and then they grow up to be adults, and they won't eat green vegetables. And I decided that part of it was that they don't know how
Yeah.
to prepare green vegetables until they are absolutely so delicious. There is no way you're not going to eat them. Um, I may have to post maybe a recipe on the transcription.
I think that would be a great idea because, people aren't used to cooking
No,
in healthful ways, but having great recipes that teach you how to add seasonings and how to, whether you roast it or stir fry, or whatever. There's so many different ways that you can fix foods that they are still very, very healthy. And, one of the things is, don't use oil, don't use oil. Olive oil is really good and it would be really great because you need a good healthy fat in your diet.
yeah.
So, there are things that we can do. And fortunately, with the internet, people can go on and get, good healthy recipes as well. But I think it'd be great if you put one or two of your own
Uh,
recipes down
I'll
online.
put one of my mother's recipes
That sounds good. Sounds good.
because she was the one who taught me how to eat well as cook. So, well, we've been talking about food and water, incredibly, incredibly important. But it's not on your list. But I want to talk about sleep, because if there's one area in my own life where I really struggle, it's making sure that I have enough consistent sleep. So I'd love it if you would just talk about that a bit.
Okay, again, going back to the basics, a couple generations ago, people went to bed at sundown and got up at sunrise, mainly because of all the work that they had to do. But they were healthier in so many ways. Our body prefers to get as much sleep before 12 midnight as it can. And I highly recommend going to bed at the same time, as close as you can to the same time every night, and getting up at the same time every morning. I know in our Western society, people are like, yeah, but I sleep in on the weekends or I sleep in on my days off. Um, it really messes with your circadian rhythm to do that. So I strongly recommend. Now, it doesn't mean that, when you wake up on your day off that you have to get up and go exercise and do all those things. Not necessarily, but you can still do quiet things, but you're still awake. And that piece is important, I feel. Another thing is a lot of people, in order to sleep, they'll take melatonin and or some type of sleep aid. You got to be careful because Melatonin, it messes with our hormones, and it can kick our hormones out of balance. Now, also just the normal thing of sleep. So you have that circadian rhythm, and we have that cortisone and cortisol levels, and a lot of people have issues with that. But a lot of it can be because of the way that they're sleeping and the amount of stress that they're having, and they're not getting that quality sleep. So you want that to go down and then be a bit higher in the morning and then go down as the day goes on. So you have more energy when you get up in the morning. There's so many people, they're dragging butt all day and they don't know why. And most of the time it's because they're not getting that quality sleep. I know a lot of people say, turn off that TV, turn off your phone and all. It doesn't necessarily have to. Yes, that's helpful, but a lot of people don't want to go all out that way. The other thing that I talk to my patients about is set a routine. Set a routine. So that you do the same thing every night. Your body knows, it's time. It's time to go to sleep. That I have found to be extremely beneficial. But most people don't realize that sleep is really important for our entire hormonal balance. It's we notice it as we get a little bit older, but it's still impacting us, and we handle and manage stress a lot easier throughout the day if we get that good quality sleep, so that our cortisone and cortisol levels are where they're supposed to be. Does that make sense?
Oh, it does. And what I'm really taking away from this is regularity.
Yeah.
One of the things I do on my iPhone is I set an alarm
Mm-hmm.
that actually will tell me it's time to go to bed.
Yeah, and that's good because we get lost in time. We get lost, when you're scrolling on your phone or iPad or whatever, it's easy to get like, next thing you know, a half hour, an hour has gone by and you're like, oh, wow, so yeah, setting an alarm I think is a great idea. A great idea.
I was laughing at myself when I did it. And I said, no, I'm just going to trust this out and see if it
Yeah,
helps. And it does. It doesn't make my sleep perfect, but it really has made it better. So
good. Do you have a problem falling asleep or staying asleep?
I think the answer is sometimes I go immediately to sleep and then I wake up, and other times I have difficulty getting to sleep. So it's kind of a mix for me. I wish
Okay.
it was just simple, but it's not.
I learned this little technique. It looks a little strange, but I would like to share it with you and your audience. I learned it from Donna Eden, who does energy medicine. I don't know if you're familiar with her or not, but she's been around for a really, really long time. But we have these energy pathways that run throughout our body. They're called meridians. In Eastern medicine, or if anybody's done acupuncture, they work on the meridians to unblock the energy and stuff. I'm going to show you this, and because it's going to be recorded, you can go back and look at it.
Oh, good.
Again, we have this meridian that runs from here all the way down to our tailbone, basically, and then there's one that runs up the front of us. We're going to work on the one that goes this way. So you put your fingers like this on your forehead, and then you slide over to your temples. And I keep them there. I rub them just a little bit. You don't have to, but you just keep it there for a little bit. Then you come back here to the middle, and then you will slide your hands. You don't have to be touching your head because most of us have our hair done or whatever. And you slide it all the way down the middle of the back of your head, down to your neck, and then you just hang on your shoulders. I do this. I did this for a while because I was having problems going to sleep. A lot on my mind, and what I found is it didn't work right away because again, it's when you do natural medicine, it takes a while for your body to get acclimated to these things. And then I noticed I would go to sleep like in less than 5 minutes, easy. And now I don't have to do it at all because my body knows that this is what I'm doing. As soon as I hit the pillow, within a couple minutes, I'm totally sound asleep. Now, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I will do the same thing. I will do that process to get my body relaxed, and then going, it knows that it's time to relax completely and go to sleep.
I'm going to try it tonight.
Okay, you got to do it consistently for a while.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, it does work. It's amazing. I didn't share that with anybody until I knew that it worked really well for me. And the fact that I don't have to do it now consistently, that it's rare that I can't fall asleep right away.
Okay. Well, the next topic I want to go over is one that I think that relates very much to what we've been indirectly. You know, we love in this country to prove that we can work forever. I mean, we also know that we live with great stress. Information comes at us incredibly fast and furiously, almost to the point that we can become overwhelmed. And technology changes seem to impact our homes more and more frequently, which can leave us with a sense of being almost behind the curve if we don't keep up. We love to say that we are multitasking, and then we complain that we can't remember things.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll stop there because I'm already getting anxious. So, talk more about stress and what does it do to the body and the mind, even the spirit? How can we change this?
Yeah, I believe that we can. And again, going back to our initial thing, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, like, where is it out of balance? And again, I can, well, using the example of, my going through this stressful situation, and then I manifested physiological challenges from being so stressed out. Another example is, I had a patient come in and she said, typically I'm very healthy. I've never been a nervous person in my life. And all of a sudden I have this anxiety and I don't know, why, and I don't know what to do about it. So I did my typical screening and stuff on her. And I asked her if she had any dental work done. And initially she said, all right, she had any issues with her teeth, and she said no. And then a little later on, I asked her, I said, have you had any dental work done? And she said, yeah, I had a tooth pulled. And I asked her when she had it pulled. And I said, and then when did your anxiety kick in? And she says, oh my gosh, it was about 2 weeks after I had that tooth pulled. Now, what a lot of people don't understand is there are our organs and our emotions, our physiological emotions, and our physiological body organs and our emotions are impacted by our teeth. And again, most people, we're not taught that in natural medicine, so none of us even think about it. But they actually complete a circuit, the energy circuit in our body. So anyway, she had this tooth pulled, and so this energy just kept flying out of her and flying out of her. And so I referred her to a natural dentist to have it looked at and to have it filled. She had that area redone, a fake tooth put in there, and her anxiety stopped like that. So you have to look at what else is going on. The stress that you're feeling. Is it because you're literally physically doing too much? Are you thinking about something too much? Or are you emotionally attached to things that you shouldn't be attached to? So when I was going through a really challenging time, what I did is I brought it down to, what is my one thing that I need to do now? When our anxiety gets up, when we get stressed about stuff, what is the one thing? Because it's typically we get overwhelmed because we're thinking, oh, I got to do that, and I got to do that, and I got to do that. But if we go down, okay, what's the one thing that I need to take care of right now? And you're only focused on that. Your mind is totally focused on that. And that's the other thing is if we put our full attention to that item, that's going to result in better results, basically, right? Because we're more, we're not thinking about so many things. We can bring that thought right to that one thing. And then, when I was really sick, I had to come down to, is someone going to get hurt or is somebody going to die if I don't do these? Yeah, I had to go all the way down to that because I was so incredibly weak and just couldn't handle managing anything other than one thing at a time.
It's interesting. One of the the pieces of advice that I give to people who work with me in terms of their resilience is tell them at the beginning of the day, I don't use just one. I say the top three things that are really important. Take everything else off your to-do list and look at only those three. I, I know myself. I'm a list person, and my lists were long.
Yes.
When I reduced it to three, I got so much done because those three were always getting done.
Yeah. Another thing that I do, I was introduced to the placemat um, exercise. I don't know. Have you heard of the placemat
I've heard of
exercise
it,
before?
yeah, but I don't use it. No.
Well, again, when I was really sick, it was really good for me because I could think, I can't do anything and this has got to be done and that's got to be done. Because I was a single mom at the time initially and had two young kids. And it's like, and I'm bedridden, it's like I couldn't do anything. How do I do this? So the placemat thing is you divide the placemat, you have a piece of paper like this and you divide the placemat in half. And then across the top, you put me, and the other side I put God because I'm a Christian and that's what I believe. And or you can use whatever terminology you want, but what is it absolutely that I'm the only one that can do these particular items? And a lot of times for me, sometimes it was only one thing that I could handle on my list, and then most of the time it was three because, like you, I had always thought in threes. What are the three top things that I need to take care of today? I was in management a lot, and that's one of the theories that we learned: the top three things, the most important. And then on the other side, I listed everything else that had to be done, everything else that needed to be done. The interesting thing to me is when I put them over there, because I was always afraid that I was going to forget whatever the other things were that had to be
Yeah,
done,
yep.
just
Oh, yeah.
absolutely had to be done. It's like, oh, I'm going to forget. So I need to write that down. And I too am a list person. When I put it on that side, what I found is there were other people or other things that happened that some of those items got taken care of without me having to be intimately involved in each of those things. And that was such a stress releaser for me. The other thing, by writing everything down on that page, I didn't have to think about it until it moved over to my top three list.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's kind of uh, a mental crutch, but it does work. It
Yeah.
does work. I know it does. Yeah. Fascinating. Well, you know, I want to make sure there's one more that we talk about, and it
Okay.
was the last one on your list, I think. Exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've done Pilates for 24 years, uh, and that there's a whole story around that why I got so committed to that. But in January, I discovered even Pilates couldn't handle one particular problem that I was having. And now I'm at that place where I'm saying, I need to get exercise back into my life. I'm doing some Tai Chi, but it doesn't feel like it's quite enough. So I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about exercise.
Sure. I feel the same way. I was like, Tai Chi would be great, I think, to calm the mind and everything. But again, I think our personalities fit in here of like what kind of exercises are good for us. I like pushing weight and I like walking fast and I like, I used to be a runner and I can't run anymore. But man, I walk fast, and people, it's funny when I go into the grocery store, people are like, whoa, you're definitely on a mission because I just walk fast wherever I go. But not everybody is like that. So you need to find exercise that fits your personality and then also gives you the benefits that you're looking for. Tai Chi works perfectly for so many people, and it's really great to slow your mind down, slow your body down. And I think it's a great thing. But again, I don't think that like weight training isn't for everybody either.
No.
Even though it's interesting because when you do Pilates and you do yoga, there is weight training in there. It's just with your
Oh,
own
most
body.
definitely. Most
Absolutely.
definitely.
And most people don't. I don't think they give enough credit, to what Pilates and yoga can do because it really can. Um, so again, sometimes mixing things up. I don't know if you've tried yoga. And again, yoga is so different. I know when I first got in this arena, a lot of the Christian people were like, "Oh, yoga is taboo," because it's whatever. And it's like, no, yoga is an exercise program that can work really, really well. It's not. It can be. And some people go in more into the meditative and spiritual parts, but you don't have to do that piece of
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of like you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. It's like there's something good that we can get out of anything that's there. So first off, I think you start with an exercise that you feel like you can do. And you and I, when we chatted earlier, it's like these shorts, the little short things that can come up on your phone. There are so many great things that come up if you have a particular shoulder issue. There's they say, do this one exercise. I love that too. Do this one exercise and your shoulder will be able to move, your shoulders will be able to move. And you can combine several of those together in order to make a workout for you. And again, there's so many apps now that you can find the thing that will work for you. And specifically, if you have a specific issue that you want to work on, more than likely, if you Google and or you look at the different apps for exercises, you'll be able to find a routine that it'll only take 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. It doesn't have to be an hour and a half in the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Although I will tell you, I do miss doing that.
Well, what I want are exercises that I can do. Actually, you're going to laugh, but I want to do them in 2 minutes. Now, I may do them, 10 times a day, but
Yeah.
they got to be short because I don't like to. That's how I want to do it.
Yeah, and no, I think that that's great, and I do that a lot because I don't have that kind of concentrated time that
Hmm.
I feel like I need. It's very rare because of my plate being full, having my own business and taking care of my dad and having my own home and family. You know how that goes. And so, yeah, there are times that I do one exercise for 2 minutes. And then I go and I take care of some of the things I take care of. And then later on, I was like, oh, I have a couple minutes. Let me do something else. Even the rebounder, you can do the rebounder for 2 to 3 minutes and it will help you. It doesn't seem like it does, but it moves your whole lymphatic system and it can actually strengthen you, even though it doesn't seem like, bouncing on a little trampoline would be something that would be extremely beneficial, but it really is. And, there are actually programs out there now that people are doing these crazy hardcore exercises on these little mini tramps. I just bounce on the little mini tramp. And again, I don't necessarily do it every day, but I do it when I can. And if you did even 3 minutes, 3 times a day, 2 minutes, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, you can get so much benefit just from that. It strengthens your calves, your leg muscles, even though it doesn't seem like it. And that's just
Well,
bouncing.
I think it also would help you with your balance.
Absolutely, it helps you with your balance. Now, you can get one that has some people are like, well, I can't bounce on that because I have poor balance. You can get a bar that
Mhm.
attaches to it so that you can hold on to the bar, and eventually, probably you wouldn't have to hold on to the bar. And again, a lot of people think because it's a mini tramp, you got to bounce, get your feet up off of. You don't. You can keep your feet on it. You just move your body. You just bounce your body a little bit without lifting your feet up off the trampoline, and it's very beneficial.
Mm.
So
But,
again, we make it more complicated than it really needs to be.
we're running out of time, but I have to say one very quick story to kind of go back to your point about things take time to work, and then I want to give you a chance to do a few final words. Uh, I had a problem with one of my shoulders. I couldn't raise it above here.
Mhm.
And I said, I'm not going to talk about surgery. I'm just going to go to the physical therapist. And I said, tell me the exercise to do. And she said, well, it's not up here. It's actually back in here that you have to strengthen. It took me, and she gave me the exercise. It took 2 years. And now I can do it all.
Look at you. Yeah, it's
it,
amazing.
it
Again,
does work.
we
But
give
it took that
ourselves that
long.
time. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's like, we're in that society of like instant results, and really, if you want to get healthy and you want to look at physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, all of those aspects, they count, and they can impact any of the others. Like I gave that example, the physical impacted the emotional impacted the physical and the mental. You go, what's wrong? How come this is happening? What am I supposed to do? And if you're a praying person, you're like, okay, Lord, why aren't you answering my prayers? What is happening here? Because we want that instant gratification, and that's just not how our body works. You've got to give it time. It took time to get where you are, and it's going to take time to get where you want to be.
Well, this has been amazing, but I have to tell our audience a little secret.
Okay.
I don't want them discouraged that they can't talk to you face to face because they're on the other side of the continent. You work virtually. So I wonder if you would just take a minute and do maybe a closing comment and tell people how they can get in touch with you, because you actually even give 15-minute complimentary calls so people can explore with you. So
I do. And that's mainly so that, they can get to know me a little bit better, and we can talk about, what their concerns on to see if we're a good fit. And I enjoy doing that, and being able to give hope to people. That's the biggest thing. It's like, even if I'm not the right person for them, but give them hope that, yeah, there is some, if it's not me, there's somebody else out there that can help you manage whatever issues that you've got going on. So I do that complimentary 15-minute call. And yes, I have patients pretty much from coast to coast in the United States. And I've also worked with people in Italy and a couple Caribbean islands, and different places. And there's
how can they get in touch with you?
They can either go to my website, Healing Waters, at myactv.net. Sorry, myactv.net, or that you can call me at 301-824-4325. And then you can send an email that says, I'm interested in having a complimentary call, and my assistant will contact you back, or you can leave a message, and we'll get back in touch with you and set up a time for a call, and then we can talk and see how we can be of help.
Linda Potts, thank you so much.
Thank you, Madelyn, so much for having me. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Every now and then, there is something that changes how I think about the world. Grounds for Thought is a place where I talk about these moments so that you can explore the meaning for yourself. I'm writing this piece in September, which turns out to be my new year. It began when I went to school. Growing up on a farm, it meant I didn't have to weed the garden or collect the eggs. September began a new year for me. My job was to go to school and learn. So this piece is about deciding what to do at the start of a new year or any pivot point. I always enjoy it when a speaker gives me a list of things I can do, not because I think I'm going to act upon them all, but because they give me an option. I love it when I can choose among options, whether it's to see, to eat, to consider, to do. But then, of course, it comes down to actually acting upon the choice. I've always been an action-oriented person, but action doesn't always mean that I do the unpleasant things when I should, even though those actions might lead to a real achievement of my goals, honestly. However, there have been two books that stand out in my mind that have influenced me, each in a very different way. And before we get into these, think about what you learned from Linda Potts about preparing yourself for a new start. I mean, there are so many possibilities and strategies that we might utilize to strengthen us, to free us from for a change, or to nourish us as we take on a new path. And we'll never get to that destination unless we take a step. So let's begin with deciding which of the ideas are worth doing. Now, you may at this point think that September isn't my new year, January is, but the framework that Linda has provided us gives you so many options that you can take advantage of now. Not for the change that you're going to make in January, but to prepare you to make the change in January, if that's when you do your resolutions. Now is the time for you to decide. And if you're going to take advantage of them and get the full value, you have to decide what you will take into your life and actually do it. So consider at least 3 ideas that just might be great if you did them. I mean, I'm already thinking about how I'm going to do 2-minute exercise, and I'm going to create those 2-minute exercises. That's one that I'm going to do. I won't tell you the other 2 right now. Now, having trouble getting down to the 3, consider something that Warren Buffett said. He said the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. So stop and pick those 3 that really seem to address issues that you have at the moment. Look at those 3 and say no to 2 of them. So now you have one thing that you will want to change in your life. Add to your exercise program, modify your diet, drink more water, whatever it is. You have one idea. Keep it simple. Now, the book that really helped me as I determined my next step was from Marie Kondo. Now, I'm sure that as I say that name, you're thinking of tidying, but she goes deeper in her second book called Spark Joy. Kondo tells us that as we choose, we also must let go of the items we didn't choose. She says, one characteristic of people who never seem to finish tidying up is that they attempt to store everything without getting rid of anything. She goes on to say that those who keep their cast-offs by putting them in a closet tend to relapse. This simple statement about keeping things just in case really spoke to me in a new way about moving forward. It actually freed me to choose more boldly and move on to action. Forget the other 5 interesting ideas, or 3 or 2 or whatever. Don't worry about them. Now put them out of your mind and keep your next step simple. Coco Chanel, one of the most influential fashion statements designers, said, simplicity is the keynote of all true elegance. So if you think about all the things that you need to worry about as you consider to prepare yourself for a new year, a new time, a new phase, a new step, just carry the one with you where you're actually going to take action. Don't try to remember the other 5 or 3 or 2. Don't try to put them into a closet somewhere thinking they'll be there if you need them. You don't want to relapse. Now, if you resist the idea of the elegance of fashion simplicity, consider something that Bruce Springsteen said. He said, if you listen to the great Beatle records, the earliest ones where the lyrics are incredibly simple, why are they still beautiful? He goes on to say how well they're performed, certainly, but then he adds, they retain their elegance. You've made your selection, refined it, and discarded the rest. Now it's time to take action. Another book spoke to me in a new way about action. It was a small book called The World According to Mr. Rogers. In it are several of Mr. Rogers' songs. And the one that surprised me as I read the words in full for the first time was the song called You've Got to Do It. Here's the first verse. You can make believe it happens or pretend that something's true. You can wish or hope or contemplate a thing you'd like to do. But until you start to do it, you will never see it through, 'cause the make-believe pretending just won't do it for you. There was a time when we all kept a dictionary on our desk. It was simple reference that freed us to do whatever we do without worrying if we remembered it all. Today, that reference may be Siri or Alexa, but it's the same thing. We know there's another place to always find what we might need at the moment. I keep all my shows with all the amazing ideas that are shared on them on my YouTube channel with all full transcriptions. Sitting there, they won't get in your way or burden you or tempt you to relapse, as Kondo says can happen. And as Mr. Rogers says, pretending just won't do it. And who can say no to Mr. Rogers? Have you decided on your one action? Take some action now. I want to thank you for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the conversation and learned something new. And if you're on YouTube, click the like button and subscribe. Your likes help others find the right things as they search. I'm Madelyn Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilient leader.